Hey all, so back with the second to last war of the season here. We are up against LVT, as you can see. We know this is going to be a close one. We knew this whole back half of the season was going to be rough for us. We're starting off with this Darkhawk fight. I've taken this before with Vox. It's the same basic theory as any tactic fight on this node with Vox, because right back at it will purify all of your degens immediately. There's no point in throwing Special 1 or Special 2. If it's somebody you can't reliably parry, then it is worth starting with a Special 1 to get the Undermine so that you can then build up pretty quickly. But Darkhawk we can just parry fine, so we don't have to worry about that. And so what matters instead is just building up to the Special 3. Now, I elect to use powerbacks here purely for speed. You definitely don't need them for this fight to feel good. I could just build back up to a second Special 3 or finish it with combos after. But you'll see here, I don't even really need to bait out that Special 1. I just decided to keep things clean. I go for this heavy to remove the protection, give ourselves the Fury. Not that it's going to do much next to the huge attack rating we get from all of these corrupted buffs on us. And then just boom, an absolute incredible amount of damage from the Special 3 here that immediately gives us another Special 3. And obviously this is going to kill. This is way, way, way overkill. So like I said, we did not need the power backs. We could have just hit Darkhawk a few times after that and it would have been fine. But it did make things a little bit faster, which does often matter in these wars for top 10. Next up, we have Kushala versus Nick Fury. This is not my favorite matchup. There are definitely better Nick counters here, but Kushala can block unblockable, and she's just kind of generally good as an attacker, so I'm just going to make it happen, right? First life is pretty simple. You can parry Nick, and that means that you just stay on top of things. You hit him until he falls over. If we get any passives, then that's great, because that means that those won't be purified by the node, but we're not really concerned, right? Here we block unblockable. We don't have to worry about that at all. I do generally punish his Special 2 by dexing out just from the very end of it. Or sorry, his Special 1, dexing out at the very end of it, and then hitting in. That one, I could tell, like, I tried to dex out of the end and then immediately give the command to run in, right? Because that's what you're supposed to do to make sure that you actually land on time. But it felt like the command to dex out of the end didn't register properly. Maybe my timing was a little bit off. And so unfortunately, when I ran in to punish, Nick had time to recover, dex out of it, and then hit me in the face. And so that's not the end of the world. I have plenty of potions here, but what that means for me is basically I'm not going to bother intercepting again, right? Especially not until I get rid of these Furies, because we really don't need to deal with that. I'm basically waiting for him to throw a special here. I do need to make sure that I get that parry in right there. I was going for the re-parry because I didn't want him to throw his Special 1, knowing it would go unblockable before we could get one of our blessings of... I've forgotten. Is it Wisdom that's the block unblockable? I think it is. Anyway, we needed to get one of those up before we could allow him to throw a Special 2, and that's why we went for the re-parry. Here, we're totally fine. We're basically just waiting for these Incinerates to kill at this point. We get that again. And there go the Incinerate. So they did not kill, but we did go for one more Intercept, and this should do it. There we go. So yeah, not the cleanest fight, but that's basically how I was expecting it to go, right? I will go for Intercepts in that kind of fight, Kushala versus Nick. I will go for Special 1 punishes until something goes wrong, and then I switch to more conservative. I know I can't bleed out because I'm bleed immune, so I am willing to take some risks to try and speed things up. But once I lose some health, I turtle up a bit. And that would generally be my recommendation. This fight, I didn't do the primary assignments for this war, and we had down Patriot at one point. That definitely would have worked. But given that he does ramp leader a bit just by opening the door faster, he's a hard counter to Science Champs on Path 4 because he can just get the Steadfast up instantly. But I was like, I'm pretty sure Chee'ilth is just going to be faster because this is a Gamma champ. I don't know why I said that weird. And that's exactly what's going on here. Like, we're not even heavy countering, right? Because we didn't want him to throw specials. I was just sticking to those mediums, and just medium, and only 2 special ones cuts through him. So yeah, no problems there. We avoided light attacks because that's how his debuffs get on us, and you can just play around it. We move on to Arcade here. This is another Vox fight. You could do this with Chee'ilth, right? Like, you would go unblockable, it would handle the various debuffs. The heal buff from the beginning would stay on you, so you would have to be careful because you would never get back down to 0. And that's why I wouldn't necessarily recommend Chee'ilth here, but you could play around it. Because you could probably avoid getting to 3 if you're careful. That said, that's not our plan. We're going to go and just slow play until we get clarity up, and then switch to these 4-hit combos, medium, light, light, light. That went directly against my plan. I don't know why I backed up twice and didn't punish the medium in the middle, because that's the whole point of this arcade fight, right? We don't want to be on top of the trap. You know, honestly, right now, as I'm saying it, I can't remember if those torments happen if you're immune to poison. I think in my head, they did. So somebody can correct me in the comments if they don't. But that's why I was sticking to just stay away from the trap entirely. We've now let the poison gas trap expire so that we don't have to worry about that. But basically my feeling here was I just want to avoid the torments at all cost, because the Power Sting will come back around, but that way I will only ever have 2 debuffs. We can bait out his special 1, we can block his special 2, we don't need to worry about anything else, and that is exactly what happened here. We took 1 Power Sting for tempo reasons, that's acceptable, we can heal it back up. We move on to Shocker on Right Back at It and Aggression Prowess. This is a very similar theory to the Darkhawk fight that we already took, except against a 7-star rank 3 with Miniboss boosts instead of a 6-star with path boosts. So we're not going to rely on the special 3 to get us nearly as much damage here, and thankfully we do have the House of X pre-fight, so I don't need to dump this special 1 immediately. I would if I didn't have access to that, and then we'd be baiting out heavies. But one thing I want to call out is that you're going to notice Shocker doing a just absolutely insane amount of damage through block on his special 2, even though he has... I don't think he ever gets more than 2 prowess when he's throwing it into me, but it's the armor interaction in his kit, right? The fact that he's reducing my armor and effectively putting an invisible armor break on me just through having his crit rating, and that plus the block pen of just being a 7-star is tearing through us. You notice I go for another parry there to try and keep the prowess down, because if that stacks up, that's how you die in this fight. It can go very, very wrong. But if you can avoid that, then we can knock him down again and throw this special 3, get a little bit of adrenaline back from throwing it. I don't expect that 3% to matter. We are staying on top of it, but, you know, don't take any chances. And then at this point, it would be tempting to just throw the special 2 and try to end it, but we don't have the striker here, right? So I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to just wait, but I don't nail the special 1 punish, and so now I'm waiting for another opportunity. This got a little bit hairy, and maybe I should have just tried to close it out with the special 2, but eventually he throws a heavy because he's Shocker and he likes to throw heavies, and we get it down. A little bit hairy at the end there. The block damage is really insane. It's a good placement purely because of that. There are lots of good counters for it, but all of that damage that you're basically priced into reduces how much room for error you have in the fight. And speaking of room for error, there's your teaser for how this next one goes. This was supposed to be my easiest fight all day, other than maybe the leader fight, right? I don't know why I hit in there, and I definitely don't know why I didn't just throw the special one immediately when he went for a heavy instead of what I'm doing here. That's fine. I was clearly trying to hold on to my power so I could get to a special 3, and it is working out pretty well, except for that. This is probably the first time I have been hit by either Iron Man Infinity Wars Heavy or Special 1 in many, many months, and I somehow got hit by both of them in this fight, so I don't know. Not my finest hour. We're now down below 40%. That is terrible for a fight like this. That, again, should have been probably my second easiest. We throw the special 2 here once he's down to 0 armors. We're going to get a little bit of power back from this. You can see that we're at 1.3 roughly. That's pretty nice. That means we do have enough degens to get some real leverage out of this. But we do have to play carefully and well to make sure that we don't take too much more damage, because we really don't want to be messing around with the end of this fight, the below 18% part of it, for too long, while we're down here at, by that point, probably around 30% health. Anyway, I throw the Striker, I get a few more corrupted buffs, I dex here for even more. We go for the re-parry, and we're going to end this with a special 1. So he does regen a bit from the special 1. That is another reason to go the special 3 route like we did, rather than just go special 1s. But then that gets him down just fine. We don't have to worry about a long, protracted power gain. We move on to Serpent here on Aspect of Evolution. Symbiote Supreme was banned, and Serpent was here in all 3 battle groups. This is what we sent for all 3 battle groups. A rank 3 Kushala with Reed pre-fights. And you're going to see why. Because, yeah, the power gain is absolutely rough. But if you can keep enough of your blessings up so that your nullify is reliable, you can control the power gain itself to some extent. You see how much there is on those special 2s. But you'll notice, I've talked about this before, the very first thing I did was go for the special 1 to nullify his big fury. That is the risk here for me, because I feel like I can actually go for some intercepts, or I can afford to... Basically, I just have some room for error if I've gotten rid of that Giant Fury. Because that Giant Fury is why everything else hurts more. We're also keeping up our block regen, of course. We're keeping up our incinerates. We're holding on to our pre-fights by knocking down frequently with both the heavy and the special 1. We are saving the Striker. I do not want to be caught in death immunity without the Striker. That is precious time we are going to buy for ourselves. We're going to block this whole special 2 here. I go for the parries, but I err on the late side, because I would rather block it and not get net positive regen than not block it and eat the whole thing, right? It is going quite well so far, because obviously we are at 100%. And here comes the fun part. You'll notice I backed off through another special 1, and I'm just waiting. I know he's about to go into death immunity here, but that's fine. What I want is the Striker. I go for the Striker here, and that eats up our time. And then he goes down. This would have been worse for a SIG 200 Serpent. We would have had to lean on our invulnerability boost, probably eat 1 or 2 special 3s while that death immunity was ticking down. But even so, we would have been okay. Against this lower SIG Serpent, we basically just needed the time it took for him to dash in, us to throw the Striker, and then combo after that. So very, very strong counter there, despite the bans definitely being aimed at this placement to some extent. So yeah, Good war. I was really happy with this one. It's always nice using Kushala, and Vox has just been an absolute animal this whole tactic. So happy to have the 7-star duped. But until next time, we just have one more war this season. I'll see you then. Thank you so much for watching, and take care.